John Ryan. I'm a program lead for Lean Six Sigma in SQT training. And SQT is a private training college, and see ourselves as a partner to many companies in Ireland who are undergoing the Lean Six Sigma or Lean journey. Of course, it takes many headings. We talk about Lean, Lean Six Sigma, operational excellence, business excellence. So PPI, this comes under many headings, many forms. Earlier today we heard of presentations on culture and on leadership and on, I suppose, the soft skills and some of the strategic elements required in order to be successful in a program, any continuous improvement program. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus more on the tactical elements, and one of the areas which, from our experience, has been a challenge for the practitioners of projects in this area. My own background, by the way, is I'm an engineer. I worked for an automotive company in quality in the US for a number of years. The company's called Allied Signal, and since then I've come back to Ireland in 2002 working with SQT, since then delivering Lean Six Sigma training. So I would have trained about 350 black belts and 700 or 800 green belts, maybe a bit less. So something around that. Last count many years ago. So I'm going to talk to you about Lean Six Sigma project types, because one of the challenges when you start with a project is what tools do you use and how do I go about doing it. And our insight over the past 17 years, 16 years of doing this is that it helps to be able to recognize the type of project you're dealing with. Having worked on and mentored so many projects over the years, we now start to see that there's actually there are trends, and we see a lot of the same projects coming again and again. And if you recognize the type of project, if you recognize the category, it makes life a lot easier in terms of how to approach the project, how to frame it, what expectation of tools that you need to have, and just generally even simple things like how long will this take me, and where's the emphasis going to be. A little about SQT. So SQT has been in business over 25 years, and I've trained a lot of people. Lean Six Sigma is just one area in which SQT provides training. I have some brochures at the back on the bar there, but we're on stand 42 if anyone wants to visit us. We have 5 dedicated tutors out of 40 total, 5 dedicated tutors to the area of Lean Six Sigma. We provide a whole range of training, and of course the accredited training programs for green and black belts. And accredited training, that's QQI accreditation, which is formerly BTAC. So we operate more or less the same as any Institute of Technology, except that we're a private company. Most of our training occurs in company, and it's all project based. So in other words, you don't get accredited with us unless you deliver something. So it's not exam-based. We train and certify approximately 100 green belts and 10 black belts every year, and as I said, these are all project-based. There's other elements of training that SQT offer. Some of the accreditation bodies are here. So just to talk a little bit about where the rubber meets the road, the projects and project delivery. So I'm just going to go back to 2008 when we first started delivering accredited training courses. And in terms of accredited projects, in that time, I'm going to concentrate primarily on the green belts. We've had 750 certified green belts. That means they've delivered savings. Right? The average savings in those projects is about 73 to 75,000 euros in annualized savings. I don't know if you can see this, but this breaks down basically particularly the projects into services versus manufacturing. So if you look at the pie chart on the right, we have services at about 35%, service industries 35%, and manufacturing that makes up about 2/3. I'm going to concentrate on that manufacturing side, those 75 projects. This is just last year, this is just in 2015, so they come from a whole range of different companies. Some of those would have been on public training courses, some of those would have been on in-house training. If we look at the bottom pie chart, you have the typical spread of industries. I put construction in here. Some people might say, no, construction is not manufacturing, but actually a lot of the construction companies we're working with are in the manufacture and supply into the actual building providers. These projects are mostly Irish-based, though some of them, particularly in the construction industry, are spread across Europe. So they would be large companies where they would bring people to Ireland to get trained, and we would help train and mentor their greenbelts. Our engagement actually with greenbelts is not just training; it's the whole 6 months after the training, the actual delivery of the project and mentoring of the projects to completion. Typically, we would expect on a group of 10 people going through a greenbelt training, we would expect 80% success rate in terms of 80% of projects will deliver, and companies that are more mature would expect more than that, maybe 90-95%. Sometimes companies starting out might have some of the issues that were alluded to earlier, leadership issues or governance issues, and they might struggle even to get 80%. They might be 50-60% starting out. So just to talk a little bit about the challenge. Lean and Six Sigma, I suppose, existed as separate programs for many years, and when they came together, there was lots of good reasons for bringing them together. Lean, of course, provides the opportunity to eliminate waste and provide speed. So it's speed in your processes. Six Sigma looks at accuracy, looks at right first time, looks at how do I make our processes more effective. So it's a combination of being effective and being efficient is what Lean and Six Sigma, putting them together, what those tools provide. And of course, what Six Sigma also provides is a structure, a very important structure to help people deliver the projects on time and to know where they are in the delivery of those projects. And of course, the challenge, the structure is great, and the structure helps people to understand where they are and what's the next steps. But the challenge for the practitioner is, what tools do I pick? And if you even look at this, there's about 100 tools potentially that you could read up on in Lean and Six Sigma. And again, if your first project as a greenbelt is to try and understand which tools apply to me, it's going to be a challenge. And it's not surprising, a lot of projects get delayed, a lot of practitioners get confused, maybe apply the wrong tools, or just, I suppose, get paralyzed in terms of trying to make a decision as to what tool to apply. Our experience over the years is that a lot of these tools are situational, and they'll apply to a certain situation or a certain type of project. And what I want to share with you today is our insights in terms of project types. So there's 5 main project types that we see. Now you can go on the internet and you can find all kinds of people presenting about project types, cost savings versus revenue versus cycle time. We've broken them down into these 5 categories. Efficiency and improvement projects are the big 2 categories. And not surprisingly, they're primarily the lean, traditional Lean and traditional Six Sigma areas. But you've also some very other projects, some very other difficult type projects in there. And these are the ones that can cause lots of problems. We call them management projects, data projects, and design projects. So if we just look at the category there, you've got about 75% between the traditional Lean and Six Sigma projects, but you've got another 25% of projects. And these are projects that have to be done. These are not, these are part of a business strategy, so these are not projects that companies pull out of a hat. These have to be done and have to be delivered. So how do we deliver them? So let's talk about recognizing the projects and being able to understand what you need to do in order to deliver these projects. So first type of projects, we would call them traditional Lean projects. So these are the efficiency projects. These are the ones where the focus is on waste. Traditional measures around cycle time. Biggest challenge is usually differentiating between business non-value add and pure waste. In other words, what can we eliminate, what can we take out of the process. Key phases in the DMAIC are in exposing waste in the measure phase, and then in the root cause analysis, why, challenging the need for these things. And then again, differentiating between the business non-value add and pure waste. Usually these are the easier projects to do, and one of the key reasons for that is in a lot of cases with Lean projects, it's easier, what you're trying to do is to try to stop something or try to eliminate something. It's much easier to implement something where you eliminate and stop a practice than it is when you implement and start something new, start a practice. So these are always considered to be the fastest and easiest projects, and it's no surprise that a lot of the lean experts would say lean is the low-hanging fruit, you should go there first, and you should look at those things first. Again, easier, faster, but of course, you're into that point where the low-hanging fruit is gone, where do I go next? And also, when you're looking at the process anyway, you should also be looking at the outputs of the process. Is it effective? There's no point having a lean process that delivers bad outcomes or that doesn't deliver what it should deliver to the customers. And that brings us to the second type of project. This would be our traditional Six Sigma project, which is generally focused on process outputs, on defects, on impacting the customer. And in this type of projects, we're looking at what we call common cause variation. So these are processes that deliver maybe 95% right first time, week in, week out, a bit of variation here and there, but it's always there and thereabouts. And the goal for these projects would be, let's get to 98%, or let's get to the next level. What we find about these projects is that there's generally a good level of knowledge, good level of support within the organization. Everybody sees these defects, they feel the pain, they want to get rid of them. So it's not hard to convince people to support these projects. The challenge might be in the complexity of the problem. So often there are interactions, often these problems have existed for a long time. These defects are difficult to understand. They require a bit of teasing out, a bit of analysis. So it's no surprise that the analyze phase is where we have the most challenge in these projects. And tools that we use here are analytical, statistical type tools. The good news is that usually these are processes where we have lots of data, and usually it's not that difficult to get data in these processes. So these would be the traditional yield projects. Okay, let's look at the other types. So the next type is a common one when you're starting out and you want to find the money. These are the big hitters, some of the big hitter projects. If you look at lean projects, often the lean projects might deliver a little bit less in terms of savings, unless you've got a material waste or something like that in there, because often you're talking about people's time. Whereas on the Six Sigma projects, because you're dealing with materials, often the cost savings are a little bit more. These data projects, we call them follow the money projects, these are where you can really find big money in the organization. Basically looking at things like energy consumption or actual physical waste, or it could be absenteeism, or it could be anything which may not be specific to a particular process. You may be able to uncover a process that's a main driver of this, but in many cases it's not specific to a particular process. In fact, it could be a cultural issue. It could be something across the organization where there's no process to investigate, but now you're dealing with behaviors, you're dealing with culture change, you're trying to influence people. Sometimes these projects, like I said, they do turn into process improvement or process efficiency projects. The key phase is the define phase, because part of the strategy for these projects is about scoping them down, whittling them down to something doable, finding the biggest bite-sized chunk, I suppose, that you can manage. And these deliver, again, the biggest savings. So again, sometimes these projects, they turn out not related to one particular process, they turn out having several strands to them. So you might end up tackling something over here in one process, you might end up tackling something over there in another process. So the combination of those things is what sometimes we end up looking for. The next two are the project types that typically we would say are quite difficult for a trainee. They're not really the ones that we try and steer people away from these on their first projects. And these are what we call process management projects. Sometimes they might be the recurring CAPA type issues, corrective action, preventive action type issues. These are the issues that we've tried and failed to fix before, but they're not there all the time. They're not common cause. These are the ones that come and go. So you might have 6 months, everything is hunky-dory, process is fine, then it falls over. And then what do? We change everything. And the process comes back again, and we're no wiser as to what exactly the fix was, or what the changes, what the impact of the changes were, or what caused the improvement. So with these projects, there's no point in standing out there with your data collection and looking for data from the process when nothing is happening. So a lot of these projects are investigative. They're backwards looking. We look back to the process, we see what happened when this occurred last year. What changed around that time? Was there a change in the supply chain? Was there a change in the manufacturing side? So we do a lot of data mining. We also do a lot of risk assessment. What could go wrong? Fault tree analysis type investigations. What could have caused this? So trying to understand the failure modes. One of the challenges in these type of projects is often around knowledge. So it's often that we don't have good knowledge. So there are things that are not being controlled in this process, and we have to try and figure out what they are. And also that accountability might be a problem. There might not be owners to these processes. So again, this project is all about trying to understand the drivers and trying to ensure sustainability and accountability. Again, not the first choice for a practitioner. The last type I'll just mention, these are design projects. Now traditionally you might have said, okay, design should be done through a design for Six Sigma program or through your traditional design program. However, the DMAIC is a very flexible, adaptable methodology, and you can actually do process design projects in particular using the DMAIC. It's not a great fit. It can be challenging, particularly for people who are not experienced or haven't done this before. But once you've gotten used to it and once you understand what should happen in each phase if you're doing a design project, and once you understand that you're not looking for data at the start because there isn't any data because you're designing a new process, once you understand that it's often about finding best practices and instilling those best practices into repeatable processes.
John, I'm going to have to.
So again, this is a difficult, high-risk project for a trainee, and not one that we would recommend. So I guess I'll leave it at that, but if anyone wants to learn more about project types, tool selection, training for Lean, Six Sigma, Green or Black Belts, please feel free to drop by. We're standing 42. Thank you very much.